I say creativity is what makes us human. It makes us fulfilled. It makes us feel alive. It's like a food that is both healthy and tastes good. When you go around and interview, as I've done, thousands of people in different countries, different professions, you start to see that it's also what brings us all together. And she gave me a brilliant advice. Whenever your child asks you a question, don't give the answer.
Creative, fun, and massively necessary as well.
It brings a lot of joy.
Welcome to the Being Human podcast with Amelia Vegting and Jez Francis. Brought to you by Just Add Water.
Hello, I'm Jez Francis.
And I'm Amelia Vegting, and welcome to the Being Human podcast, where with special guests we continue to explore what it means to be human in this world we find ourselves living in. We're in the thick of the summer holidays here. Everyone's in and out of the office, and you've recently been away, Jez. What were your highlights from your trip?
Yes, I had a short break earlier this month on the North Somerset coast, staying in a beach hut near Dunster, where my mother first took my sister and I in the 1970s, would you believe? And I have to say, not much has changed since then. So the chalets themselves, as they're called, they're very, very basic. There's no TV, no Wi-Fi, just me and the dog, basically. And the simplicity is very much part of the magic, I think. Long walks on the beach, up onto Exmoor or along the southwest coastal path. These all offer opportunities for reflection, for discovery of new and unexplored paths and places. I stumbled across the Valley of the Rocks. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
Okay, so it's just east of Linton on the coast. It's this kind of otherworldly, beautiful place, home to herds of wild goats.
Amazing.
And this impossibly picturesque cricket pitch right in the middle of these amazing kind of rock formations.
Yeah, it really sounds like you were hitting that kind of creative rest that Dr. Saundra shared with us a little while back on the podcast.
Definitely. Surrounded by nature with lots of time and space to think and rest and recharge and more. So it was wonderful. You had some time off. What did you get up to?
Yes, well, I'm still basking in the glory of the Lionesses a couple of weeks ago, mainly because I did manage to get out to Switzerland to watch some of the Euros. We had 2 quarter-final tickets. Unfortunately, we didn't actually get to see England play, but we did have 2 brilliant games, the first being Switzerland-Spain. Watching a home crowd is just always absolutely electric. And then we had France-Germany, which was a nail-biting game, finishing in penalties. So that was a really, really good weekend.
The energy from live sport is always brilliant, isn't it? And as you say, even better when you're amidst a home crowd.
Completely.
Yeah, I always think that whatever sport you're watching, you see a plan meet reality, instinct built upon by kind of improvisation, decisions being made in split seconds, and the beauty when moments of pressure turn into unexpected brilliance. It's exhilarating, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I can see what you're alluding to here. You know, you're highlighting the creativity that's in sport, and that's because creativity is in everything, whether it is nature, like you've experienced on your time away, you know, sport, as we've just mentioned, work, the arts, it's always around us, which is, I think, why we thought it would be a brilliant topic to revisit today, but with a different guest this time.
Yeah, we had Ben, our friend and brilliant musician and writer, on in Series 1. And now we've got a new guest to share his perspective on creativity. And it's a subject close to us here at Just Add Water, so we think it deserves more time in the spotlight.
But just before we get into it, as I know you've always got a wonderful story to tell, shall we go into boring things about me?
Yes, you know me too well, don't you? Let's do it.
Boring things about
the part of the podcast where we celebrate the more mundane yet beautiful moments that make up 99% of our lives.
Well, Jez, I can see you're itching to share, so kick things off.
Have I ever told you what DIY stands for in our house?
I don't think you have. I can't remember, so this is probably a good start.
Okay, so it stands for don't involve yourself. Or in other words, get a professional in to do the work. Just recently, I chose to ignore this mantra that served me well over the years and have a go at fixing the loo seat myself. So my family had been complaining for a while that it was loose, and I'd been sticking my head in the sand because of it. It's one of those loos that's sort of all self-contained, so you can't obviously see any fittings or screws or what have you. So I thought it would probably involve a plumber, and that would be A, expensive, and B, make me feel very, very inadequate. So I'd been ignoring it for quite some weeks. Anyway, having fallen off it myself, I decided enough
was enough.
Enough was enough. Yeah. So I did some YouTubing, and I managed to order both a replacement hinge and the specific tool that was needed to fit it. And I braced myself for failure, which is what usually happens whenever I try and fix something at home. And would you believe it? I managed to fix it.
Oh, well, congratulations.
Yeah, and this wave of what I'm going to call mend thrill swept over me. Brilliant. Anyway, look, what about you, Amelia? What fabulous yet dull story do you have up your sleeve?
So the other day in our office building, we had a physio and chiropractic company come into the reception and offer to do sort of free spinal screenings, which I thought, why not? You hear so much at the moment about the problems with people's postures and sitting at desks all day. So I thought, I'll pop my head down and educate myself. Anyway, got completely swept up by the salesman who was who was in reception. He did a fantastic job, and I ended up signing up and paying for a chiropractic session a week later. And as you know very well, and I believe we have mentioned on the podcast before, there's not really a joint that I can't click. So I have to say I was a little bit skeptical of what they'd be able to do, considering that I could do a lot of that myself. Safe to say they do know what they were doing, and my clicky body was sort of snapped into shape. And then they give you lines of where the human body is ideally meant to be, and then the line of your body and where it's sitting. Safe to say the results came in. They're not good. Jez, do you know how much the average human head weighs?
I don't, but I'm guessing it's quite a lot. I've no idea. Go on.
So it's 4.9 kilos.
Right. Okay.
Just in your head. Yours and mine might weigh a little bit more than that because we've discussed that we've got quite large heads.
Yeah,
yes.
As Bob Mortimer would say, a sniper's dream.
Exactly. You and I are sniper's dreams. But what happens is that every centimetre that you tip your head forward, another 5 kilos of weight goes through the top of your spine and into your back. So with my current posture, would you like to know how much my big head weighs?
What did you say the first one was? 4.9 kilos?
Yeah.
I don't know, 10 kilos?
14.
Goodness
so
me.
14 kilos of
Through
weight
your
is
neck.
going through the top of my neck and into my back. And having seen these pictures taken and seeing my head drooping forwards and how far away my line was, it did definitely raise the alarm bells. But funnily enough, I haven't chosen to spend £400 on 6 sessions where they claimed to be able to sort it all out for me. So now I'm just continuing to carry my massive heavy head around.
I feel myself straightening up just listening to you.
When you talk about it, your posture kind of fixes. Joining us today on the Being Human podcast is global keynote speaker, author, and explorer of human creativity, Fredrik Haaren. For the past 25 years, Fredrik has dedicated his life to studying human creativity, helping people and organizations around the world unlock their creative potential. He's delivered over 2,000 speeches in more than 70 countries, and his work is driven by a passion for ideas, curiosity, and what it means to be different in a rapidly changing world. He has explored the world of creativity from the deserts of Oman to the innovation labs in Silicon Valley, from Japanese sushi masters to Spanish flamenco dancers, and from paper artists in Thailand to musicians from the Netherlands. Fredrik has seen creativity expressed in its many cultural forms, and he brings a unique global lens to how we explore new ideas. Fredrik believes that creativity is not a skill reserved for the few, but a deeply human trait that we can all nurture. And today we're diving into exactly that: creativity, exploration, and what it means to be human in a world full of ideas. Fredrik, or should I say the creativity explorer, welcome to the Being Human podcast.
Well, thank you so much. I've been looking forward to this, actually.
Before we dive into today's subject, Fredrik, we've got some questions to get to know you better as a person. If you could teleport to anywhere in the world right now, where would you go and why?
Yeah, that's the thing. I live on an island in Sweden, and right now this is where I want to be. So that is my philosophical answer. But to honor the question, I would say Greece. Because as you said, I've interviewed people and spoken about creativity in 75 countries, but I want to reach 100. And Greece is one of the countries I've never been to, which is, I mean, I've been to Bhutan and North Korea.
I was going to say.
Much weirder countries, but I've never been to Greece. But I think if you should understand creativity, there has to be a lesson for. So I'm going to say Greece.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
should really make a plan to go to Greece.
The crucible of
Yeah.
ancient civilizations in many ways as well. So yeah.
Exactly. They had some good ideas in that country historically.
And our listeners obviously can't see what we can see, but you are in your biosphere on the island with the beautiful sea and scenery behind you. Just tell us a little bit about where you are, because it really is. It looks very special.
Yes, so I own one of the 265,000 islands we have in Sweden. One of them is mine, and I live on it with my family. And on the top of my house, I have a geometric dome. And in that dome is where I do my writing and my conversations with people around the world. So I'm sitting in it now. So it's 360-degree unobstructed view of nature, but protected from the elements.
Oh, it is absolutely breathtaking. I think that's what all of our home offices should try and aspire to look like.
Just for context, Amelia and I are buried away in a studio with no windows.
It's a very different setting.
I don't know if I should tell you this, but you're getting the bad view. I have positioned myself so I have the good view.
Oh, well, there we go.
Talk us through your morning routine. What happens to the Creativity Explorer when you wake up?
That is such a good question, which is going to get you such a boring answer, because nothing happens to the Creativity Explorer in the morning.
Not a morning person.
I am not a morning person. I wake up, I have a cup of tea, and then I start my day. And I don't have ideas. I don't do writing. I have good ideas when I sleep, but not right in the mornings are my most unproductive time. I'm just getting started. So I can write in the middle of the night. I have great ideas in the afternoon, even before lunchtime. But mornings are, for me, just a time to land on Earth again. Today, I woke up, I had a cup of tea. I set up the outdoor Jenga that we have that had blown down in the storm yesterday. And I played one game with myself, and I set it up again. And then, that was my morning routine today. I play Jenga with myself.
Sounds perfect.
That is interesting.
On the subject of games, let me ask you, would you prefer playing a board game or a card game? And which is your favourite game and why?
Oh, that is such an easy question. Chess.
Chess.
So I actually got to chess very late in life, maybe 3 years ago, thanks to the app chess.com. And I have a good friend, one of my best friends. We used to both live in Singapore, but then he moved to Portugal, I moved to Sweden. But every day, except if there's like a wedding or a funeral or something, every single day we play one game of chess together on the app, and then we FaceTime at the same time. So
Brilliant.
we have like a 30-minute conversation about where our lives are at the moment. And in my age, as a man at my age, it's not very, to keep in contact with a good friend every day. It's kind of rare. It's a beautiful moment. We do that. And so, yeah, definitely chess with Andrew.
Who's got the upper hand at the moment of most wins?
I'm so glad you asked. I am slightly better at him at chess, but
Nice.
I also play I played 19,000 games of 1 minute chess against people who are better than me too. So I get my fair share of losses.
All the training ready for your next FaceTime with him.
Yeah, we have something to do while we tell stories of our lives.
Okay, Frederick, last get to know you question. If you weren't doing what you do now, what might you be doing instead?
Well, during the pandemic, I got to ask myself that question because I'm a global keynote speaker. So the two things that I do is I travel and I speak at conferences, and the two industries hit the most were travel and in conferences. So there was a couple of years there where my industry was more or less dead. And I could ask myself that question, what would you do if this goes on forever? And unfortunately, I'm afraid to say, I did not come up with an alternative answer. I have built my life around what I really like to do. So I'm happy that it came back. I guess the answer would be, maybe I'll do it in the form that you're doing it. Maybe I'll do it in the form of a podcast, but I would still explore creativity.
When you say you've built your life around what you love doing, was that a conscious decision, or did you just move gradually towards this? Because I think lots of people will be very, I use the word deliberately, quite envious of you and others that have managed to end up doing what they love, where work perhaps doesn't feel like work. And I'm curious to know whether that was a conscious decision or whether that's something that's just evolved.
That I became a speaker was not a conscious decision. And because I wrote my university thesis about the internet in 1995. And at that time, if you knew anything about the internet, you were instant expert. So I was an internet expert at the age of, 28 or whatever. So suddenly I went straight from university to expert. I skipped the whole being a professional before becoming an expert. So that was accidental. I was suddenly asked to speak. And my father was a musician and my mother was a teacher. So if you combine teacher with performer, you get professional speaker. So you could say I got it through my parents. But then when I found out that I was asked to speak, I realized how much I loved doing it. My father put me on stage when I was like 5 years old, and I would sing in his band and be paid by free Coke and stuff like that. I was a paid speaker at 5 years old. So in a sense, I have always been seeing myself as doing it. And then when I started doing it, I said, okay, this is really, really fun. But then speaking about creativity, because I was asked to speak about the internet, speaking about creativity was a very conscious decision. And speaking about creativity globally was an even more conscious decision.
Well, let's switch our attention to the topic of creativity.
Fredrik, how do you define creativity?
Well, I've been studying the topic for 25 years and I've had different definitions. At the moment, when I get this question, I say creativity is what makes us human. And I know that it's a very almost meaningless answer, but to me, it's a profound answer because it means a few things. It means, first of all, creativity is as many things as there are humans. Your creativity is different from my creativity, and we shouldn't try to copy someone else's creativity. We should find our own. That's the number one reason. The second reason I say it is because we never feel more alive or more human or maybe even more divine than when we have a really, really good idea or when we make a really good idea come true. Or when people appreciate our ideas, either aspect of that, it really makes us shine as species. And I guess the third reason I say it is because we are the most creative species. So what differentiates us from the animals is that we are actually more creative than them. It's what makes us human. So there's a few reasons I say that. I know I say it also because when you go around and interview, as I've done, thousands of people in different cultures, different countries, different professions, you start to see that while creativity is individual, it's also what brings us all together. It's a universal human trait, and it's one of the most beautiful ones.
And so building on that, why is it so important to us as individuals and as a collective?
Well, the obvious reason is because creativity solves problems. If we didn't have creative people, we would be living in caves and we would be cold and hungry, right? So we build ourselves a better life, we live longer, and so on. So that's we solve problems for ourselves and for others. And the other reason is it makes us happy. As I said, we never feel more alive than when we have. So there's a purpose in being creative in itself. It makes us happy. It makes us fulfilled. It makes us feel alive. It's like a food that is both healthy and tastes good.
Yeah.
Those are rare.
Very true.
As you describe that, I immediately start thinking of situations where you get that joy and then you start piecing together that actually those are creative moments, whether it is kind of as being part of like a winning hockey team and someone's done something, a bit different or creative on the pitch, through to designing some of the work that we've recently done and seeing those presentations come to life. It's all those moments have creativity within them, and you do get that joy from doing them and doing it with other people as well, and that bringing people together.
Or me fixing my lavatory seat.
Exactly. Yeah. Creative genius.
Creative, fun, and massively necessary as well.
It brings a lot of joy. But you also said something interesting. You said you watch someone on the pitch, like you watch Messi dribble, and that makes you happy. It's not he is being the creative one, and makes you happy.
Yeah.
Creativity can even spark joy in other people, and that's a rare trait.
Many people, can consider creativity to be something that you either have or you don't. What's your take on that myth?
Yeah, so I've been teaching creativity for 25 years because I don't think it can be taught. No, I'm just kidding. I definitely think it can be taught. And I think anyone who says it can't be taught has misunderstood what creativity is. But the key here is that most people haven't learned how to become more creative. People don't understand the creative process enough. They haven't had, maybe, I was interviewing someone yesterday, the head of the Creative Britain. And we came up with a word, which is a made-up word, but it is, if I can remember it now, it was creativitor. So not a creator. A creator is someone who creates something, like Messi does a dribble, right? But a creativitor, a tour means, at the end of a word, means someone who makes something happen, right? So a creativitor is a person who makes another person discover the creative potential or makes them creative.
Okay.
And we use the example of Sir Ken Robinson, right? In his speech, this famous TED Talk with 66 million views, where he talks about this dancer and the mother takes her to a doctor because she thinks she is sick. And the doctor says, she's not sick, she's a dancer. That's why she can't put her in a dance class. That doctor was a creativitor. That woman, who then became, Andrew Lloyd Webber, choreographer, and all of this, she would never become that if someone didn't see that in her. So we talk a lot about creative people, but what we really need is more creativitors, people who empower and creativity in others. Of course, when we are young, but also when we are old. Parents and teachers, but also leaders, everyone.
What does that need in terms of mindset, do you think? What does a creativitor look like?
I think it needs awareness. I think we need awareness. That's why I like putting a new word on it, because we don't have a word to talk about this role. People aren't going to take on that role. Or people are not going to see the importance of having a role like that. So if we highlight, look, this is an important role. We know that coaches are important for football players, but creative people also need these kind of people. And when we start realizing that, we would change the way we educate teachers. We would maybe do parenting course. We wouldn't only teach parents how to save the life of the child when they are infants. Maybe we'll teach them a little bit on how to develop creativity in their children. So like we would now build things around the role that we didn't see before. I think it's a very important role. I think you can interview any Nobel Prize winner, and I'm pretty sure they can all name a creativitor, someone who
has influenced their lives.
Very often the parent, wasn't it Bill Gates' parents that had some friend who worked at IBM and they got them a computer? Like, someone needs to play that role. And more importantly, you need to play that role for someone else.
Yeah. So I think to some extent parents can play that role, but I also think that, if I think of my relationship with my kids, there comes a point where actually they need role models that deliberately aren't their parents as well, people who will challenge them to think differently. Because as parents, one of the things we often can't help ourselves doing is kind of protecting our kids from failure. And actually it's in the margins, it's where things go wrong, it's in failing or not achieving that the greatest moments for step change in self-awareness or creative expression live, I believe.
I had kids late in life. When I was I was 40 years old. So when I got kids, I was already a creativity expert. So I said to my mom, Mom, because she's a teacher, she's been teaching hundreds of thousands of kids. I said, Mom, I know creativity. I'm an expert, but I don't know children. How do I raise creative children? And she gave me a brilliant advice, actually. She said, whenever your child asks you a question, don't give the answer. I said, what do you mean? Okay, the child goes in and says, Mama or Papa, why is the sky blue? Instead of giving the answer, which most parents will do, because they want to teach their children, you just say, what do you think? And then the child is, first of all, learns that creativity is not about asking questions. Every child asks questions. Creativity is about asking questions and finding answers. So now they will learn to find their own answers, which is what creativity really is about. But second of all, they might very often come up with ideas or answers that are better than yours. And then they say, oh, I think the sky is blue because God's favorite color is blue. Okay, well, that's an interesting answer according to science, and then you give the answer. You still give the answer, you just hold back for 30 seconds. And by doing that, you could say that you become a little bit of a creativator. You are encouraging your child to become more creative. And this is so difficult for parents to do. It's unbelievably hard because you want to show them you know everything.
Yeah, I think I can relate to that for sure. What role does either discomfort or the unfamiliar or failure play in sparking exploration, innovation, creativity, do you think?
It's different for different people. That's the thing with creativity. For some people, this exact same situation can either spark a lot of creativity or it can totally kill creativity. For example, like that said, growing up in a family like that might kill creativity as well for someone else. So, for example, a lot of stress is not good for most people's creativity. People should be, if you look at Nobel Prize winners, very often they get this idea that they've been sitting looking into a fire and suddenly this idea comes to them, right? Or Harry Potter sitting on a train between Manchester, something like this, like something just pops into your head. But then you have the Apollo 13 scenario where this oxygen tank has exploded, they're going to die within 24 hours, we need to solve it. This is extreme time pressure, extreme stress. And they did solve it. So which one is it? Should we be very relaxed or should we have time pressure? Should there be chaos or should there be calm? Well, the answer is both. It depends.
Yeah.
It depends on the situation, but also depends on the personality of the person. Some people need stress and deadline. Some people don't. Some people need to be challenged because only when they are challenged do they push themselves to become more creative. Some people don't.
Which side of the fence do you sit on? When are you at your most creative?
I am definitely on the relaxed side. Definitely. That's why because I publish books, both self-published and with a publisher. Right now I'm published. The next book comes out on Wiley, so I have a publisher and they have deadlines. And my God, I do not like this.
What about you, Jez? Which side do you think you sit on?
We were just talking about this morning, weren't we? I've been under some pressure of late, and I definitely feel that my frame of reference kind of as that shrinks, the ideas just don't come as naturally to me. I feel like I need, if I'm thinking about something a lot, that almost clouds out, for me anyway, personally, those more kind of creative thoughts that just come to me almost whilst I'm not thinking about anything.
Yeah. I have a beautiful example though, if we have time. I interviewed a glass artist in Barcelona, and she does extremely difficult glass sculptures because they are 30 centimeters thick glass and they're 100% transparent. It's very hard to make glass like that doesn't get bubbles in it. And so, and she was doing this and put it in I think it's called a kiln. You put it in the kiln and then it stays there for like 6 weeks by cools down or something like this. And then she takes it out and it's cracked. Like over and over, it's cracked. So she's failing. And then one time it cracked and she got so angry. And she called this the merienda moment. Merienda is Spanish for shit, like crap. And she got she had failed many times, and every time she got disheartened. But this time she failed, and she got so angry. She said, why the hell is this happening? So she said, I need to understand it. And then now she was full of energy. She went down to the library. She borrowed every book on glass. She called all the glass experts in the world. It's like someone pressed the turbo button in Mario Kart, and suddenly she's
flying. Yeah.
And she solved it. She came up with a new way of making glass, and now she's the only person in the world, more or less, who can do glass like this. So the failure triggered her to solve the problem, become more creative. But not every failure does that. And that's the merienda moment, when failing gives you energy to solve the problem. So I think that's a beautiful story.
That's a really beautiful story. And I think that there's something so true about actually when you've got a really specific problem to solve, how are we going to do it? A little bit like the Apollo 13 reference that you mentioned as well, that suddenly all the ideas come together to really address that specific thing. And I think that that can be a really beautiful constraint of when creativity can flourish, rather than everything still being so in, oh, what problem do I want to solve today, or what topic do I want to think about, or what chapter do I want to write today. When you've actually got something really focused, that's when you really see everything burst into, you know, and you get that energy and you can really channel all of that towards something whilst bringing in ideas from everywhere.
As with everything, it's the context that dictates, doesn't it?
Yeah.
If we have time, I have a total opposite example if you're interested.
Yeah.
And this is one of my favorite examples from the book. So this is the origami artist from Bangkok. She's a Thai paper artist. And I was interviewing her and we started talking about creative blocks, like when you have writer's block and there's this frustration when nothing happens and you're just feeling nothing is happening. And I said, what do you do when this happens to you? And she looked at me like she did not understand the question at all. And what do you do? And she goes, I go to Starbucks. Okay, so what do you do there? Are you like thinking about the problem? And she goes, I'll just drink my coffee. And I saw in her face like she didn't understand the concept of creative anxiety. She didn't have it. And we started talking about it. And she said in Thailand, they have something called sabai sabai. Have you been to Thailand?
No, never.
So sabai sabai basically means don't worry about it, just enjoy life. You're sitting in a bar, you order your beer, it hasn't come there for 20 minutes, you go like, where the hell is my beer? They would just smile and say, sabai sabai, don't worry, the beer will come when the beer will come. It's like that explains the Thai happy mentality. That's their approach to life. It's happiness, not winning the lottery it is just enjoying life happiness, that kind of happiness. And that's what she used. Like when she gets a block, she goes, okay, so I'm in a block now. No reason to sit here. I just go to Starbucks and drink coffee instead. And she calls this an idea nap, like a power nap. Like you're tired and you go like, oh no, I'm tired. You don't say that. You say, oh, I'm tired. I think I'm going to take a nap. And you go like, oh, okay, I'm stuck. Okay, I'm just going to take an idea nap. I'm going to go to Starbucks and enjoy a coffee. And then after coffee is done, you go back and you continue to create. This is creative block without the anxiety. And when I heard that, it has changed my whole approach to creativity. I don't have anxiety anymore. When that happens to me now, I'd say, okay, I just need an idea nap. And I go and I play Jenga with myself or something. And then I go back to writing. Creativity doesn't have to involve anxiety. It could, it doesn't have to.
Is it fascinating? So two kind of stories about different approaches to the creative process, one from Spain, one from Thailand. I'd love to hear stories from all 75 of your countries, but are there other powerful stories about the creative process that perhaps you weren't expecting from your journeys and your conversation?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, so the book is called The World of Creativity, and it has 37 chapters with 37 countries, so I guess I have to write a part 2 about the other 40 countries. But one I really like, that I like to share, is Mongolia. So I went and I lived with the nomads nomadic people of Mongolia, the 12 hours out from Ulaanbaatar on the edge of the desert. I lived with them for 11 days in those tents. And I was just interviewing this old guy who ran that little village. And we were talking about life. I wasn't interviewing about creativity. We just talked about life. I wanted to learn what can we learn from people who live like we used to live 10,000 years ago when we were still nomads. And he said something like this: you think nomad means a movement of the body. It doesn't. It means a movement of the mind, which is, I think, a beautiful quote. And then he explained that you think we always travel. We don't always travel. We travel until we find the perfect place to live. And then we build a village there and we live there for months. We don't move, we just live there. But here's the key. Every morning when we wake up, we open the tent door, we stick our heads out and we say, this was the perfect place to live yesterday, but this is the perfect place to live today. And if it's not, they tear down the whole village and they just move. And I call that to move like a Mongolian. And if you look at when people are really, really unhappy, it's usually because they continue to do things that used to serve them well, but now it doesn't, and they are still there. Like a bad marriage comes to mind, right? We were happy, we were in love, and now we are miserable, but we are still here because, well, we are married. Or people in a job that they just should have quit 10 years ago, or people with a hairstyle they should have changed 10 years ago. Like, we need to have this mindset of just because it was great yesterday doesn't mean it's great today. maybe, and we should question ourselves every morning and say, you know what, should I still be doing this? And if not, you should change. In their case, tear down the whole village and move the whole village. But for you, what does it mean? It's a very healthy way to live.
Just to take advantage of that as a way of living, you have to have a really tuned in sense of what's important and what you value. And because I believe that people don't really fear change, they fear loss. Nobody hands back a winning lottery ticket, for example. So understanding what you value and what you take with you as you leave behind the things that are no longer making you happy or serving you well, I think becomes crucial.
Like leaving your country and moving to a different country is such a healthy thing to do, because you now get to question, are the things I take to be true, are they really my thoughts? Or have I just been soaked up in this culture telling how things are supposed to be done? So I married a Filipina, and when we had children, suddenly I have to argue for how we are supposed to raise children. And she has to argue because we have totally different ways to raise children in Sweden and the Philippines, right? But we have to say, is this really the best way, or is there a better way? And it's such a healthy way to understand what you truly believe, or what someone had just told you, this is how you do things. In the Philippines, when it rains, you can't go out, you get sick. In Sweden, when it rains, we say to our kids, go out in the rain, it's healthy for you. Now, which one is it? It's raining, should they go out, should they not go out? Everything you have to suddenly question, which is wrong, which is right. I think that's such a healthy way to understand what you truly believe, and to question the things that you shouldn't believe anymore.
Just so with that, speaking of sort of different cultures, from all of the travelling and research that you've done, are there any differences across cultures and their attitudes towards creativity?
So in the West, we look at creativity very much as disruption, right? And it should be fast. You need to pivot. I like the Mark Zuckerberg quote. If you need to go fast and break things. Like that's how he described the success of Facebook. And that's all great, right? It's nothing wrong with that. It's the American way to innovate. But I interviewed this Afghan painter, this woman, because many years ago, Afghanistan, hundreds of years ago, Afghan was a cultural superpower, and they had paint, music, art, all of that. So she paints like they used to paint in Afghanistan many years ago. And that means that she first cuts down a tree and then makes her own paper. Then she starts grinding emeralds and stones and stuff. And then she mixes that with oil and water or whatever it is. And then she creates her own paint. And then she cuts the hair of the neck of a cat and ties that to a stick. And now she's made her own brush. And this takes weeks. And she says, when I have an idea for a painting, I start by doing all of these things. And while I'm doing all of these things, I'm thinking about what I'm supposed to be painting, right? And she called it profound patience, right? Profound. When she finally starts to paint, that is never the painting she thought she was going to paint 6 weeks earlier, because it has changed in her head while doing all that. And you guys, you just order on Amazon, the next day you have a drone delivery, and boom, you start painting the next day. You never have time to soak the idea, to think about it, to rethink it in your head until you finally start to paint. Mark Zuckerberg and this woman is totally different approaches to creativity, and they are both true.
Fredrik, what are your go-to practices or habits or rituals that keep your creative muscles strong?
Well, the number one thing is that I learned a long time ago is I need to meet strangers and learn from them. That's where I get all my energy. If someone says, where would you like to travel? Like, what's your favorite place to travel? I say a place I haven't been yet. Every day, almost every day, I interview someone about creativity, and it could be any kind. I can talk to a taxi driver about creativity, or a president, or anything in between. And I think taxi drivers are extremely creative. So when you have a topic like mine, and you can talk to any profession, any person, anywhere on the earth about the topic, and they will teach you something different, that keeps my energy. It's like an infinity machine. It never runs out. And I've been doing it for 25 years, and I'm still learning. So I know I will never run out of learning things about this topic. And the topic is so universal. everyone loves the topic. It's not like I'm doing, diversity and inclusion. Some people hate it, some people love it. No one hates creativity, or very few people do. So it's a topic everyone loves to talk about. So that's where I get my energy. Learning from others about creativity, and then I dissect what I've learned and I channel it back again.
And do you have, obviously you're in, the really fortunate position to be able to speak to all of these people and learn from all of these people. But for many of us, we don't have access to the world that you have done. Have you got any practices that people who aren't in your position could take on to try and flex their creative muscles?
But I would argue, I didn't stop just because the pandemic hit. I did more interviews during the pandemic than I think ever. Of course, it's much nicer life to go and interview a glass artist in Barcelona because you do it in Barcelona, or a sushi chef in Tokyo because then you can eat sushi while you interview him. But thanks to Zoom or Teams or WhatsApp or whatever, and email, you can now email people and say, hey, if you're a plumber and you want to learn about plumbing in Argentina, you can very easily send an email to a plumbing expert in Argentina and say, hey, I would just like to talk plumbing with you. Can we go on a call? And you will be surprised how many people will say yes, because they also love plumbing. That doesn't cost anything. It's literally free.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Having the courage to just reach out to people, because people love talking, about, what they do. Often people love sharing stories about themselves, and there's always something, you're right, to learn about all of those different conversations. So you just got to reach out and do it.
And people do this. It's not like I'm the only person doing it. If you love, Pokemon, you will connect with other Pokemon people all around the world. People do this all the time. The problem is that a lot of people do it. A lot of people do not do it, and they should be doing it. And especially speakers, I'm surprised, like thought leaders, I'm surprised I meet my peers. They're like, so what's the last person you interviewed? I say, I don't interview people. I was like, what the hell? Why not?
Yeah.
That's the whole purpose.
It's quite refreshing to talk to a keynote who doesn't just broadcast, but also clearly values the importance of listening and learning from other people as well.
But I did not always do that. So that's when I redefined myself from a creativity expert to a creativity explorer. Because an expert has all the answers, an explorer doesn't have any answers per definition, but it has all the questions.
Yeah.
So when I redefined that, I totally changed my self identity, actually. As I'm not an expert, I don't know anything about creativity, but I want to learn about creativity. I need to find the people who can teach me that no one else has asked. And then that totally reframed how I look at my day.
Fredrik, I want to ask you about the workplace and what leaders can do to create an environment where exploration is not only allowed, but encouraged. I
interviewed a person who worked, an advertising person, and he used to work in Europe, but then he started working in Korea, I think for Samsung. And he went to Samsung marketing department, and suddenly his creativity just died. Like suddenly and also the team did not create anything. And in the beginning he said, it's because Koreans are not creative. But then he realized, wait a minute, that's not true. They're clearly creative. They're one of the most creative countries on the planet. So something is wrong here. And he realized that they had different creative processes. And what he realized was, I don't know how they create. So the insight here was that most people are not even aware of their own creative process, but even fewer people are aware of the creative process of the other people in their teams. Like if you're in a team, if you're a leader, let's say you put together a temporary team and you're the leader, the first thing you should do is go around the table and everyone shares what is your creative process as an individual, but also as a member of a team. What kills your creativity? What to thrive? Like for example, if I was on that team, I might say, well, just so you know, sometimes I look really bored in meetings. It's not because I'm bored. It's just I'm an introvert. This is my face when I'm with other people. I love being in these meetings, but my ideas might come later. So if I look bored, don't let that energy affect your energy. I am not bored. I love being here. Then that would help the other people. Otherwise, they might think, why is Fredrik bored? He looks bored. What are we doing wrong? Like all these thoughts comes in. Most people can't say what their teammates' creative process is. Then how the hell are you going to help them be creative?
Yeah, that's so interesting. Actually taking the time to share with each other what those processes are. You're so right. If you never ask that question of others, then how are you ever going to know?
I feel much better about your bored face, Amelia, when you're talking to me than that.
It's a regular occurrence. Frederick, what has surprised you most in your journey to exploring creativity around the world?
I guess I would have to say that I didn't think I could learn so much about creativity from people who are traditionally not defined as creativity experts. Or, like, I thought in the beginning that, I should interview the most creative people on the planet only. But then I started interviewing normal, like I said, like a nomad or a tourist guy in Oman or whatever, every person I meet. And my insight became, it's in conversations with other people that I get new insights around what I understand about creativity. So I should just have these conversations with all kinds of people. And that broadens, like the whole theme here is human, right? If you want to understand humanity, you need to talk to all kinds of people. And that's why, for example, I went to South Korea, but I also went to North Korea, right? I go to developing countries, but I also go to developed countries. I go to experts, but I also go to the people in the slums. I want to understand how humans think. I want to understand creativity through humanity, and I want to understand humanity through creativity. It goes both ways. And when you do that, you get a different understanding of a topic. And it might sound counterproductive to not talk to the people who are not the experts, but I actually find that extremely rewarding and insightful.
It's very powerful, isn't it? We were going to ask you if you think that there's a quick creative exercise that you could run with us now to stretch our creativity a little bit.
Yeah, we can definitely do that. I believe in creativity exercises, but I also have to say, when you re-interview some of the most creative people on the planet, they never do creativity exercises. Like, ask Messi, what's the creativity exercise you do in order to become a creative football player? He's, I'm doing the 6 thinking hats. No, it's not. So let's not overemphasize the value of creativity exercises. So instead, I shared a story about my father. My father was asked, because he was a music teacher, and a musician, but also a music teacher. And parents would ask him, like, how do you make a child a musician? And he would say, well, you can teach everyone, you can do exercises, like you put your fingers like this, you blow here, and suddenly out comes music. But that doesn't make them a musician. The only way to make them a musician is through inspiration. Like, play the greatest ever, like Bach, Beethoven, Frank Sinatra, play all the greatest ones. Like Michael Jackson did. He studied all the great ones and he became Michael Jackson, right? And if they have the potential to become musicians, it's not doing that piano exercises that will make them that. It is them being soaked up into the beautiful act of music, and they will become students of music. So maybe the creativity exercise that I'm going to suggest is for you to go deeper into thinking about what is it that inspires me, and then you give the obvious answer, or whatever that is, meeting people. Okay, what is it with meeting people that inspires you? Oh, I can learn new things. And then you do the traditional creativity exercise of asking why 5 times. And so now we have a traditional creativity exercise, but it's done around the aspect of inspiration, which would give you a much more interesting answer around your own creative process.
That would be great.
We should go back to the office and
we're
do that.
We're going to do this,
yeah,
for sure. We'll spare the listeners
of having to listen to us two trying to think through our creative process. Frederick, if you could leave our listeners with one idea or practice to become more creative in their everyday, what would it be?
To become more humble. But there are 2 kinds. If you look at really, really, really creative people, they are either extreme and have extreme confidence, like Ronaldo, Steve Jobs, those Elon Musk kind of people. And that's great. And they are often very, very creative people.
But they're rare, though, right?
They are rare, but they're the other one that is equally as creative, and also even more rare, is what I would say the Messis. Ronaldo, super confident. Messi, very humble human being, it seems to me, or Federer, or whatever. They can be very good at what they're doing and very creative in the way they are doing it, but they are also very humble human beings. And creativity is actually about being confident and humble at the same time. because you need to be confident that what you believe in, even though no one else believes in it, you're still going to do it. I'm going to go where no one else is going. But at the same time, you need to be humble enough to say to yourself, I might be wrong, or this is probably wrong. There might be a better way of doing it. And most creative people don't lack confidence, but they lack this ability of questioning themselves in a humble way, not in a not in a doubting way, as in I don't think we can do this, but in what there might be a better way we haven't thought of yet way.
Yeah, and where else can I learn from the idea that I've currently got? Who else can I be speaking to, or what else should I be watching or listening or reading to develop where I am at the moment?
Especially in the world we live in now, where people are innovating literally all over the world, in India, in China, everywhere, and they are doing some amazing stuff. And the easiest way to become better is to just look what someone else has already done, and then take those ideas and implement them, and then build on that. So, but a lot, especially in the West, we are not even looking there, which I find very depressing. We think, oh, we're the best, and everyone copies us. No, they are actually doing some pretty cool stuff over there. And if you're not even looking, that per definition means your humbleness needs a bit of work.
What a wonderful place to bring our conversation to a pause, I think, Amelia, because we're going to go and explore this more, aren't we?
We are.
but our time with Fredrik is at an end. Thank you so much for
thank you.
taking time out of your day to talk to us. It's been absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, it was great fun. Thank you so much.
I'm so looking forward to listening back to this conversation with Fredrik. So many interesting things and stories and different takes from around the world as well on the topic. I was particularly taken by his views around the importance of creativity. So his point that, without it, we wouldn't progress. Or solve problems. We'd still be living in caves, cold and hungry. And that on a very personal level, it makes us happy. This idea that it makes us feel alive, and that we're never more alive than when we are in the creative act or observing the creative act through others. I loved the metaphor of a food that's both healthy, i.e. in terms of progress, and tastes good.
Yeah,
it makes us happy.
Brilliant.
I thought that was a lovely way of thinking about it. And the role of the creativator, I thought was wonderful as well. The person who unleashes the creative potential in others. It could be parents, teachers, community leaders, friends, or complete strangers, to his point as well. Or closer to our world at Just Add Water, leaders within organizations. And how do you become the creativator? By asking questions. What do you think? I thought was good. And by taking time to understand others' creative process individually and as a collective, and then encouraging it. So much to take away.
Yeah, there really, really is. And I have to say, from that conversation, and I think I was already, but I am totally sold on the idea that you don't need to be labelled as a creative or be in a particular creative industry.
You don't have to be a graphic designer or work in an advertising agency to be a creative.
Completely. Yeah. And creativity is expressed in so many different ways. And I think that Fredrik's definition of creativity just solidifies that. He said it's what makes us human. And so that's everyone. And, I think that if more people hear that definition of it, then it might help those who don't necessarily see themselves as creative begin to realise that perhaps they're just doing it in different ways that they might not have realised before. I thought his final point that he was making about creative people having that combination of confidence and humility is really powerful, because we can always be learning from other people. And that's how, Fredrik spent his last 25 years, is speaking to people all around the world and taking the time to email people who are doing similar things to him or completely different things to him, and being able, always believing that you have got something else to learn from other people around you, and not letting that arrogance or ego take over when it comes to your ideas and what you're doing. I just thought was really, really refreshing. And I think, overall, that was just a very powerful conversations with so many interesting anecdotes from all of his adventures. Thanks so much for listening to the Being Human podcast.
Do hit the follow button and leave us a review on whichever platform you're using.
And as always, we would love to hear from you. So if you've got suggestions on topics that you would like us to explore, or if you think you make a brilliant guest, or if you would like to talk to us and our colleagues around the world about the work that we do at Just Add Water, we would all love to hear from you.
So please do get in touch and stick around for arguably one of the best bits of the podcast. The bloopers are coming up.
Thanks for listening.
You've been listening to the Being Human podcast. Brought to you by Just Add Water. Nurturing individual brilliance, forging collective strength.
Which knob do I fiddle with, Will? The one that I'm plugged into?
Yeah.
Oh, you're there. Crikey.
It came up on your blind
Yeah,
side.
yeah. Hello. I'm Jez Francis. Hello.
How taken were you, Jez?
I was very taken. Sounds wrong, doesn't it? Oh, Mr. Darcy, I am undone.
Thanks so much.
This episode is sponsored by the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders. With veteran Amelia
Have you seen
Vecti,
all the-
back for her 5th season.